I guess I could only. Well, that was terrible. Well, sorry, I had to do it.
Yeah.
I could only hit myself on
Perfect.
the like. I can't. I'm holding the mic, Jason. In one hand, I'm in my bed because this like
Wow.
sort of villa I'm in. There's no desk, right? It's all.
You poor thing.
It's all jungly. So
how do you? I feel so bad for you. How are you getting? How do you even surviving in this Indonesian escape? This Indonesian paradise.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's so awful, Jason. Well, I mean, it's great for life. It's not just great for recording a podcast. That's all I'm saying. You don't have to be a dick about it. I'm here. I'm putting my hours in. No, I mean it's been great. I've been actually. When we did the last one, I was just leaving for Bali, and then when I got to Bali, like for the first 5 days, I of course got sick. Like I fell ill. I don't know. It was just a cold or some bullshit. But we were just supposed to chill at that first place anyway, so it wasn't a huge waste. And after that, we went to Ubud for a couple of days. It's like this jungly place. And did all the, touristy shit there, all the tours, like the coffee. I had the fucking luwak coffee, where the luwak, Jason, he eats the beans, but he can't digest them. So he just poops them out, but they go through a chemical process that makes the coffee smoother.
Depupify it?
Yes.
So
then they clean it after.
Coffee.
Yeah, it's like you should like Google it. It's supposed to be some hot shit. Which for me, who doesn't really do coffee
are you legally allowed to bring that out of the country?
Yeah, I got a couple of those to bring back.
Wait. If you're in the mood to get one for me, that'd be, I'm into that.
We already did buy a couple of extra for some people, so we just have to see if you're important enough on that list, Jason.
dude, Wikipedia says it's $600 per pound.
No, yeah, it's wild, but here it's so cheap. It's like, I don't know, like let's say 50 grams, which is like, okay, 8 cups worth. That's like, I don't know, 20, 30 bucks. I think the biggest one I could get at this place was like 100 grams, and it was probably like just double that, which is still under $100. But
God damn.
Yeah, I guess it's
all right.
It's sort of worth it. So yeah, it's been that, and now I'm at this like sort of last place, chilling, trying to catch the sunset. And meanwhile, all hell's breaking loose, Jason, around us. Well, that's an exaggeration, but it has been pretty wild.
I actually don't think it is. I actually don't think it's much of an exaggeration. It's been absolutely mental. I expected some turnover and some changes with CS2. I didn't expect it to this degree. Like, let's just start with this one. I mean, I guess we kind of saw this coming in the last episode, so we can just open with it. But like the entire simple stepping down and taking his break, which we kind of mused on, I had no idea it was actually going to occur.
Me neither.
I think you even kind of said it, like it would have been a great idea for him to have taken that break. But I'm completely caught off guard that he's taking this break now. I guess like some in the public might just say like, how is that unexpected with his reaction to CS2? But still, like, stepping away for who knows how long it would be. I mean, that could be this could in theory be the end of his Counter-Strike career entirely.
Yeah, that's wild. Actually, I haven't really thought about that, but it's a possibility. He could just hang it up and say, "Hey, I'm not enjoying this anymore. Like, I'm out," which would be probably the most simple way to end his career, I guess. But yeah, it did come out of left field in a way, because sure, he might not like the game, but it's still fucking simple what we're talking about here. He lives and breathes Counter-Strike.
And if the greatest player to ever touch the game is going to just leave, like you'd want there to be some fanfare around it, right? Like you'd want to be like, oh, like this is his. You want to have that last event, right? Like this feels like such a flat way for it to end. If it does actually end, that's like part of what worries me. But yeah, it's crazy to think that he might just never step back into the server, because this is how like I feel like things can easily like slide out of control a little bit in regards to this specifically. It's just like at a certain point, like with someone as big as he is, and like he could start streaming tomorrow and be huge. I don't know if it would last forever, but that initial like year of streaming he'd be getting deals. And like that's such an easier lifestyle for him, especially can live wherever he wants, can be wherever he wants, and he'll have tons of offers coming in. Like it can very easily just like slip into the complacency. And then what's almost even to a degree more worrying is what if he comes back and just sucks?
He could also ask his good buddy Shroud for some tips when it comes to moving over to streaming from playing. But
or Tarek. Tarek's doing pretty well for himself too. And Simple's, you got to look at that and be like, there's the option. The route is there. It's like the path is laid out for him in a sense.
Yeah, but before we get too ahead of ourselves, like let's just sort of, I want to look at it as if it is just what it's supposed to be and just a break from competitive play, which as we discussed a couple of times, but in the last episode too, I think it's great for him to do that, to sort of figure stuff out. And then if he decides that I don't really want to play this game, I want to play Valorant or I want to be a streamer, do that, man. Whatever's going to make you like the happiest. There's no point in doing it if you're not enjoying it. That you're not going to be able to perform on the highest level. You're not going to be, the most fun person to be a teammate of as well. So yeah, I think that's all right. And whether he comes back and it's in NaVi or it might be in some other lineup or whatever it is, I think we'll just have to wait and see, what happens and wait for him to let us know what's going on and how things are happening, which, I think it's interesting from the NaVi side of things as well. Now I'm getting a little bit excited to see this NaVi lineup because they brought in Wonderful from Sprout, which was sort of a little bit of a weird place for him to go after Spirit. It seemed a bit too low-key, that he maybe could have gone to a bit more high-profile team. But, he's still a super young player. He's shown us some good things at times from his time in Spirit, right? So we did hear from NaVi camp a good amount of times, the problems with the atmosphere and, this and that. And you can imagine that Simple was a decent part of that. So even though obviously you can't really replace someone like Simple on a player basis, just that sort of a boost that they will have in team environment, could that bring out more from some of the other players? Also Wonderful, what an incredible opportunity for him to go to NaVi and be the main op there and sort of get the opportunity to prove himself back in tier 1. And maybe he just, regardless of what happens to Simple, he's just their guy.
Yeah, I just think when I look at this NaVi roster now, like it looks so flat and like unimpressive to a degree, especially considering Ema hasn't really followed up on like the major performances. And yeah, maybe he gets a boost with Simple's departure. Like you have a little more frags available, more roles available. As you said, the atmosphere might be better. But I look at this roster, I don't like know what like the anchoring point of it is. Like Simple was always that kind of centering, grounding player within the team. That now I look at it and I'm just like, like this, there's nothing really all that exciting about it to me, to be completely honest. And I'll tell you what else kind of sucks about it is the timing of his departure, like couldn't be worse, like they make this switch to an international roster. And then this comes out at a point where they're missing any opportunity to go really after the big name players, like all the shuffling is kind of occurred and been occurring already by the time NaVi gets into the game. So they're super late to the party in terms of trying to pick someone else. There's like this turns it in from like a pivot to an international roster where Simple helps you remain competitive to now essentially this feels like a full rebuilding project.
Well, I don't know if they're super late to the party, Jason. The party is like fucking, it's banging. It's like,
okay, they're fashionably late to the party.
It's like, well, in my part of the world, it's like 1 a.m., 1:30, like, I mean that in like...
yeah, dude, I've been in bed for 2 hours.
No, I mean
already.
like in Serbia, right? Like because the parties go on until 5 a.m. I know in the US, shit closes at 2 a.m. So that would be like, if I said 1:30, you would think it's the end of the party. No, now it's like at its peak or maybe close or maybe just a little bit past its peak from all the crazy shit that's been going on. Like how about fucking... Well, also just to close on NaVi, like you said with Ema and some of these guys maybe not delivering to the extent that we expected. Now is their chance, right? Like now is your sort of now there's no more excuses. Oh, I couldn't play with this guy, or this guy was on my ass, or whatever. No, now like there's no more excuses, right? Like now you're supposed to show what you got and whether you are ready at this point to play on a tier 1 level. But the wild one for me, Shiro steps down from Cloud9.
Yeah, holy
what
shit, dude.
The fuck is going on in Cloud9? How is it
this is the worst super team in history of super teams.
It's like the most anticipated roster in years. Like, oh my god, this is amazing on so many levels. They're going to be top 3 within a month. 3 months later or 4 months later, your like arguably best player, your star opper, benches himself, like, in a way. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, we obviously don't know exactly how the conversations went. I haven't seen anything as to that in terms of how much of who it was influenced by, which we normally have some indication of. But this one, completely out of left field. And I mean, I think when you pair that with like Electronic joining in NaVi's place, taking in-game leadership over, and then handing it off like within a few months, like what a dumpster fire this has turned into. And like what is hailed as a super team, you kind of can look at now and be like, part of the reason why it never like really progressed and got anywhere close to that peak is, man, it had to have been a shit show there, like a complete shit show. In terms of like what that roster was dealing with, the players were trying to organize, what the coach and staff were trying to actually figure out. Like there had to have been problems left and right. Like it's crazy to think that like this is just kind of collapsing. Now they have Boomich. Boomich is back.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I think it has to be such a hot mess with too many. I guess it's too many cooks. It has to be like that. Has to be the case that he like doesn't want to play anymore, right? Because for him to not want to play, obviously, like you look at the lineup and you're thinking this lineup is like really good. It has really good players, so it's not like, oh, my team is dog shit, I don't want to play for these guys anymore. Like I want to bench myself. I want to go somewhere else, right? Like this is a good team, but it's dysfunctional. Which means like too many people are trying to chime in. We know even from the old roster, Shiro like has a big voice, and then you had Electronic as an in-game leader, and then they figured out, okay, he can't do it, so Hobbit has to do it. But you imagine Electronic still wants to have a voice, and Perfectly too. The only guy who probably keeps his fucking mouth shut in that team is Exile, right? Which, and then you have a coach on top of all of that who definitely also has a say in things. So I think that's like sort of, they didn't really establish that at the beginning. Hey, who the fuck's doing what here? Like who takes how much of the responsibility when it comes to talking? Like, let's say when we were in FaZe and we had, Niko, Cold, and Olaf in the team, right? Like, and then you have Broky and Rain. So like Niko is the in-game leader, right? Like he does most of the talking, especially in the mid rounds. Then Cold chimes in, like he does a lot of the CT side stuff. If he has a feeling on the T side, like he will do it and call it, or maybe in the mid round, right? Like if he sees a reaction, him or Olaf, like even to a little bit of a lesser extent than Cold, he would step in, right? And that's it. Rain sort of, obviously, like if you're in the thick of it and you hear something and you want to make a call, of course you do it. But in general, like let's say that doesn't happen that often, then you have, Broky, who's like the opper and make some communication in that sense. But in terms of like suggesting things for the team to do, really, especially that he was a rookie, he just like keeps his head down and plays and like, does his thing. And that's like sort of the hierarchy. And of course with Niko as the in-game leader, he has the buck stops with him in a sense of, Cole can say something, but he can listen to him or not, right? Like he gets the ultimate decision. There's no like, and for us, like when we set it all up and all this, it worked. It was very functional. It worked really well as it's supposed to. But if you, for example, would have had Cold come in all the time and just give calls, well then like, bro, you're like, are you the in-game leader or not? Or if like every other round, like in the mid round, Olaf was like, hey, let's come B, let's do the, like something like that, then it's like, well, this is not fucking working. Which I'm not saying that's exactly what happened in Cloud9, but I imagine it was something like that where, like it becomes too suffocating when everyone's like suggesting shit, and it also might be a little bit of a stylistic clash in the end too.
You're all kind of on different pages when you're trying to like figure out what the issue. I mean, if you just look at like the history of this team, even if you go back further, like it was supposed to be Inters was the problem. Let's bring in, Buster, and the conversation is Buster. It can take initiative in ways that Inters couldn't, and can do things that allow NaVi to be freed up as an in-game leader to not have to kind of micromanage so hard. And then that obviously didn't pan out the way they wanted it. So then next up, and then NaVi goes out, and then Electronics like I don't want to be in-game leader, and then now Shiro's stepping down. So like I from the outside, honest to God, like when I've seen all this news over the past few months of Cloud9 just stacking upon each other, it really reminded me in this weird sense. Like I get like this like almost like deja vu feeling of like when I went to Liquid, and it's just like there's so many problems that when you feel like you're solving one, like two more pop up. And when you solve one of those, it's like two more pop up. And you can never get ahead of the issues in any meaningful way to make a significant change to improve the team. And it's just like this whole thing is just, it's just stunning the way that this has collapsed, like watching it from the outside. This is going to be like a really cool moment for not for Cloud9 or the players, but for like some of us like on the outside, like a year from now, like talk to Hobbit or Electronic in an interview and be like, what's going on?
Bro, like
what
a
happened?
30 for 30 or a Netflix miniseries,
like now that you've got some time and you've got the hindsight and you can look back on it, like where did you make the mistakes? What were the issues at the time? Looking back, were those as big of an issues as they were made? Like this could be like a really cool conversation down the road of like just bro, bare your soul and like get it all out, because there's a lot of shit that hasn't been made public. I would guarantee that these players can talk about like why those issues were so devastating to any of these rosters from having success.
Blood to survive. I'm sorry, but it's also
it's early for you. But it's also, you haven't had your poop coffee yet. That's cool.
Yeah, exactly. But it's also like, what the fuck? Where could Shiro even go? Like if he is not going to be on Cloud9, right? Like whatever it is they do, let's say he has to change the team to go somewhere else.
Well,
where the fuck does he go if he has to speak Russian? And yes, before anyone says anything, he can't go to NaVi because NaVi is not signing Russian players. Because of the war in Ukraine. And unless, I don't know, he does the same fucking thing that Perfecto and Electronic did, which is denounces Russia, and I don't know what the thing is there, but I don't think that's really, I really don't see that happening.
Is it a crazy idea to say why not knock on Falcons' door and see how interested they are? They're putting together.
I don't think like he could really play. That's why I said I think it has.
I don't know,
like
but would you be willing, if you're Zonic, would you be willing to take the chance? I mean, I've heard Shiro he can speak English to a degree, right? Like,
yeah, I mean,
he take that chance?
I think he can. Like he can. I feel like communicate on a basic level, maybe, right? Like I really don't think it's anywhere near the level for you to be able to play Counter-Strike and communicate on a high level, because we talked about this with some different players before, right? It's not about like you can maybe make the call out, but to process in your head what you want to say when it's like a move, it's like a sentence, it's a couple of things. Hey, I want you to go, you go here, and then you're going to flash me, and if I kill someone, smoke this other side, whatever. Something like a sequence of things that you want to say out, like that's going to take too long and it might be too chaotic.
But come with me down this path real quick on a little bit of a journey. If we just entertain the idea, if we just entertain this idea of him joining Falcons, right? Like Zonic and magisk have just gone through this whole language barrier thing with bringing Vitality to international. They probably know some of the ways they can alleviate some of it, if there are any tricks. I don't know if there are, to be honest with you. But also, I mean, just straight up, and this is where it might get a little bit dicey. I mean, the interview with Zonic is like, it's crazy for us to think that right out of the gate in the first major, we're going to be like ultra competitive for the trophy. then you all of a sudden are in a position where you're placing Falcons in a situation where you have a little bit of runway to work with to try and work through some of those language barrier issues. He's one of the best operas we've had in the past few years. Now, I would say the reason it gets dicey is because the reported signings of Falcons don't really make it seem like they're playing for runway. It sounds like they're playing for championship contenders right out of the gate, if I'm completely honest.
Yeah, I mean, I it's very hard for me to see him go to an English speaking team, even if it's like someone, let's say, Falcons, and the first year they're just gonna send him to fucking English classes, and play in whichever way. I just think if they have like the funds, they can get other players who are, they don't need to go through that process, really.
I guess the question with that too becomes, like, with all the conversation we hear about oppers in CS2, and pretty much every opper and even in-game leaders, even everyone is kind of saying that the op has felt a little nerfed in CS2. Is there a world in which teams, where we've seen how important oppers are at the end of CSGO, is there a world where teams going into CS2 are just like, oppers at the moment really aren't the biggest priority?
I mean, you see who Cloud9 got as a stand-in. They got fucking Big Boom. So they don't have an opper on their roster.
Well, I mean, Boomich and Perfecto are apparently passing op duties.
Yeah, so it tells you they don't. This tells you what they think of the op.
Right. Yeah, or it tells. Yeah, I don't even know what it tells you, to be honest with you.
So I don't think they put a lot of stock in it right now. I didn't get to play for a while CS2, so I don't know did they patch the thing where like op is inaccurate as soon as you take damage?
I honest to God, I'm not an opera myself, so I haven't really cared so much about that.
Even if they did patch it, like, I haven't had the chance to play and feel like if it was like a big change, does the op feel like much better? Was that like a big part of why the op felt the way it did? So
it was actually so weird, because that day that post came out, like the very next day was someone refuting it, saying, no, the blur effect is just kind of there. You don't get inaccuracy. And then there was another post that refuted that post.
All right.
In the terms of how the op feels in CS2, the op is one of those weapons that has never been kind to me since like 2005. So, it is what
but
it
just
is.
to end on this like whole Shiro thing and going through the world rankings, right? And Cloud9 is the highest ranked Russian speaking team at 11. Right beneath them is VP, who will go above them, I feel like, in the next, when the ranking updates next. Then he's not going to VP. They have Jame, right? And after that, the next one is like, now we go into the teams that can't pay him as much, right? Like Batboom is the next one. And they also have Zorti. I feel like they might be fine. Like Spirit would probably be the one where you look at, you're like, okay, they could use him and whatever, but going from Cloud9.
Would he want to go there?
Yeah, exactly, right. Yeah. That's what I mean. So it's like super weird. Like, is he just, like, I really wonder what the conversations are like. Is he, are they going to make different changes at Cloud9 and he's going to slot back in, right? But yeah, that's like super, super strange. Who knows? Maybe if they kept Nafany over Hobbit and just had Nafany as the in-game, maybe it would have all worked out.
It is funny the way that finally the Nafany change happened and it's all just gone to shit, like even more shit than it was previously.
I wish we had Kassad as a guest here to talk a little bit about the upper management and the middle management. And
yeah. I wish we had Nafany as a guest here. I bet at this point he's willing to just spit some absolute fire, like, fuck all these guys. I told you all.
But yeah, so we'll have to wait on all of that.
Yeah, I saw that and that was like some jaw-dropping news, but I didn't actually think about it in that much detail in terms of like where he would go. And you're right, it is a very weird situation at the moment in the world. Like, yeah, you make a very good point.
It's very hard. It feels like it's very hard to unfuck that situation at Cloud9, right? Like, that's the problem. Yeah. It's also, if we had to discuss like them.
Well, it's just so weird too, because they've gone back to like the core of like NaVi 2021, yeah, exactly. Like of like 2-3 years ago NaVi. It's like, what's Boomich doing back? Like, nobody showed any interest in Boomich since he left Cloud9 since he left NaVi.
Isn't it like that for a little bit while they were like looking at electronic and all that stuff, that Boomich's name popped up then as well? No, and also it says he's just a stand-in for now, so I'm not really sure I don't know. I have no idea what's going on.
Yeah, but okay, but let's take the Cloud9 angle though. But like, you know, you all of a sudden have Electronic who doesn't want an in-game lead. I can't imagine Hobbit wants to be a long-term in-game leader.
We might have to.
Where are you going?
I get, bro. Just fucking hobnob. It's over, bro.
Your
time in Cloud9 has to be over.
If he wants to extend the career, he's got to be the in-game leader.
Yes, but also not in Cloud9, right? Like, do it in. Fuck, I'm going down the list. Go to 1 win. You know. Oh, that's where it came from. Shit. Oh, no, that's where Boomich came from. All right, so go. You know, swap with Big Boom.
Trade places.
Yeah.
And then who do you get?
I don't.
An Alper.
Yeah, but yes, but like cool. You know, people are saying Dexter. I don't know how good that guy. I mean, we saw like how good he can be, you know, individually, right? And his highlights and all of that stuff. But is he like I don't want to say like a good teammate because that implies that he might be a bad teammate. Maybe he's just.
He strikes me as one of those oppers, like kind of like Acor was early on, where he'd be like really good in like this kind of loose, like more puggy environment, like where he gets like all the freedom in the world to like kind of play how he wants. But if he wants to be in like a team that has some kind of structure, I think he struggles.
I mean, obviously you have a guy like Deco who's super, you know, he's like a loose cannon really, but if you know, if he were to join a roster like Cloud9, I'm sure that would sort of you know, like get him to drop some of the attitude a little bit, and obviously that would be a prerequisite for him coming in. You could even put a fucking clause in his contract or some bullshit, like maybe something like that, or also just fucking keep fucking twisting the knife enough on his back, just get Zorti from Bad Boom. You know, that might be.
You know who I feel is like almost like an ultimate winner in this scenario at the moment in Cloud9. And I mean, you might want to. You can tell me I'm crazy if I think this, but I've been feeling this way for a while. Is Axile? I think Axile's been like super disappointing, at like his individual level for a while now, and certainly, but like, there's no spotlight on that because of, you know, the super team building with like, and like, you know, the spotlight kind of turned on him, like when the super team wasn't panning out and we're watching his performances suffer, and then Electronic said he didn't want to be an in-game leader, so that took some attention away. Hobbit stepping up to be in-game leader for some time took the spotlight away. Shiro benching himself took some spotlight away, but like, you know, Axile was like the
Jason,
number 3 player in the world.
Let's rip Axile a new one. That little
no, I don't want to. That little rat.
Little fucking shit.
No, I don't want to like lay into him and have us all like destroy this guy, but it is kind of like,
fuck, you know, he has it coming. Where was he when Imperial was coming back? No, but yeah, I mean, you're right. Yes, he has been. I mean, first it was like, oh, maybe in some of the big games, in playoffs at times, like unless it's FaZe on the other side, like he just doesn't deliver the same numbers. Then it's like, well, with CS2 being so much, you know, peakers advantage and whatnot, is like, does that like to which extent does that suit him, like the new game? But yeah, it hasn't been really, you know, that's sort of a top 5 player in the world level.
I think there's some defense there, like pretty much. I think like a blanket defense for almost all riflers.
Oh, I see what you're doing there. Like you fucking you set it up, then I go in, and now you're Mr. Nice Guy fucking defending him. You little shit.
No, I said this in the last episode too. To be fair, I just think there's like a certain, like when I'm watching teams play, and I like when I was casting Rubet, you can tell like some of the players don't really know how to handle every situation because like that instinct to play it smart in CS:GO is still so prevalent. But everyone also knows the peaker's advantage feels really strong at the moment, so you can almost watch the internal battle in players' heads, like trying to figure out how to play a scenario where they're kind of like, I know it's like maybe the better overall decision to play this passively, but it's CS2. So I also feel like I need to fucking peek. I also feel like I need to swing and take this fight. And like you can see it when you watch people play. That'll lessen over time, but there is that kind of like weird little bit of a battle going on. Hey, I got another one for you. One of the other big roster moves. Alex has joined NIP from Movistar Riders.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. I tweeted it out the other day. It's like, I like what Alex has been doing with Movistar and how they played, even at this last Pro League, right? Like, you could see them, they were a functional team, right? They were playing like good team Counter-Strike and stuff, and especially, they every now and again they lose a player, like they first lost some Pius, or they had to make roster changes, and you have to persevere through all of that. Him, Mopples, and Blade being together for a super long time. So yeah, I think that could be like, it's a nice player to give an opportunity to when it comes to handling like a bigger roster or a bigger name, or get some better players, right? The problem is NIP being such a fucking dysfunctional environment to come into, is like, it feels like the odds are really stacked up against him, where he might potentially get the blame if things don't work out, or that might reflect on his sort of reputation or whatever, when really, like, to begin with, it's like a difficult situation to have to come into. And also, just before we get more into fucking Alex and NIP, I saw Config the other day, again, either tweet out or on Instagram say, okay,
yeah, it was on Instagram,
new beginning, new opportunities, like turning the leaf again. It's like, how many fucking leaves has these motherfucker turned? It has more fucking pages in his fucking book than War and Peace. And people are still going to tell me, like,
literary reference for you.
People are still going to tell me, like, oh no, like, Config, this guy can be sick, you could give him a chance. Get the fuck. I was even like, when was it? I think it was during the Pro League broadcast. Last one, I was saying, get rid of everyone from NIP except for Hedrick, because he's the only one that looks like he can be. And maybe then I even gave up on Brolan. I would have said, like, keep Brolan and Hedrick, but I even gave up on Brolan by that point. It was like, just do a full rehaul. How is motherfucking Rez still on that team? Bro, how?
I was gonna bring that up.
How is Rez still there? Even, I mean, I can understand that maybe, Threat is now coming in, and obviously he wants to make changes, like, shit's not working out, but, he probably can't make 4 changes immediately at the same time, right? It has to be gradual, and maybe some of the players that he wants aren't available now, but he knows they might be available in like 3 months from now, 6 months from now, so he's just trying to move some shit around. Like, Astag is back. I was surprised he wasn't picked up by someone at some point, but...
I honestly, I don't even mind it. Yeah, dude, I like S-Tag's game. I'm not gonna lie to you. Like, he's not gonna blow up the server. He's not the most exciting player in the world, but I think he's a solid role player for most teams out there. And I think he's been hard done by in NIP. So I enjoy seeing him back just because I like his game. I watch him change roles and fill in wherever has been necessary over the years. And I think he's very, very serviceable in how he plays the game. But I know what you mean as well. They're in like this weird limbo where I feel like as an org, they're not willing to, like, and this makes sense to a degree, like, they're not willing to, like, spend the money to bring people in to, like, truly change the team, like some kind of a superstar player, but they're also, like, not really willing to take a risk on, like, young talent. Like, they're in this weird limbo period. It's like, you've got Config, you've got S-Tag, you've got Rez. What those 3 players are going to be. Like, you already know.
Shit.
They've shown us what they're going to be. And then you've got Hedrick, who, fair play, a little bit of a risk, but obviously, like, I would even call it like a risk. Like, he's got talent. It's just, can you develop it? And the in-game leadership has always just kind of been like, I still to this day, after like 3 years since COVID, I don't know what the identity of NIP is. I don't know how they like to play the game. I don't know, like, what they like to do. I don't know who their star player is supposed to be. I don't know. I don't know anything about this team.
Talk about fucking gross mismanagement of a roster. Like, a good friend, Jonas Gunderson, which was like a shit decision after a shit decision. And it's like, that's the thing. We'll get to it. I'll have to mention it at some point. I saw this, like, what the ex-EG CEO wrote on LinkedIn about her time on EG, right? And it's these fucking nincompoops like Jonas and, like, this broad that are, like, making everyone else look bad. And it's so terrible where you, like, you sort of, like, have to talk about it. It's like, you can't look away. It's like how do you say it? When you pass, like, a car wreck or whatever, like,
yeah.
You see it and
you want to watch the crash.
Yeah, and it's like, we have success stories. Like, obviously, Ants is one of the ones that we have been talking about more in recent times, right? But it's so fucking, starting with going all the way back to even device. You bring device. You said like they did bring a superstar. That was the last time, and then they put in LNZ and ZTR to play with. It's like fucking brilliant. That went great. So yeah, it's just like I agree with you 100%. I have no like if you're an NAP fan, what are you supposed to cheer for?
You're not even Swedish anymore.
You know, exactly. And that's why I saw like Wally was tweeting about that. Is like, and I don't know if that's even possible, like to do for them, like if they could, you know, spend the money on it, either them or whatever, and make it like, you know, like what was it? It was like, well, obviously they don't want to do it because they just got rid of Brawlan, but a team with like Hampus, Brawlan, Knock, people were mentioning Era, and then like Crims, you know, well, yeah, that's like kind of, I could see something there. The thing is like with Brawlan, was he just, you know, done because of the whole NIP situation, or is he just like sort of checked out, and how much does he even want to, you know, how much motivation is there for him to like be a tier 1 player, you know? Because you can see a lot of the ex-Fnatic guys are coming in and sort of saying, wow, this guy is like sick and exists and JW, and you know, like, so at some point
I think there's a little bit of like, I think that's a little bit of like the Swedish scene banding together, because Swedish Counter-Strike has just dropped off the map entirely. I mean, it would be fucking nice as someone who misses like the era of like, you know, teams based off the country you're from. Like every team being international is kind of, you know, for me, doesn't have that same level of excitement as the kind of the national teams. I mean, that's kind of a weirdly phrased. It's still exciting. It's just like I enjoy like watching us.
I saw also like, I think Maui made this tweet like months ago when it was like Complexity and Liquid, like in changing Russia. It's like, if you're like from NA, like for example, you like with Complexity now, like you're fucking over the moon with how they did in Sydney, right? Like you're really pumped, even though they didn't win the tournament. Like even if they, let's say, lost in the semis, it would have still been awesome. You would have been really satisfied as a Complexity fan, right? Because you understand, okay, we're not really there yet, but we have an identity, you know, we're doing it for NA, we're the like last bastion.
The pieces are there, we're seeing improvement.
Yeah, exactly. So you have something to also look forward to like in the future, and that's going to make you want to follow the team maybe a little bit more closely and all of that stuff. If you're like for an international team, like it has to be either you are so good, like you are a G2 or a FaZe where you have the names like the big stars that, you know, and you have championship level aspirations, right? So people are sort of following you and cheering you on for that. You have Ants who had this sort of an underdog thing going for them. Everyone loves an underdog story. So okay, that's their identity, right? Like they are the small ants that could, you know, or the little ants that could. I don't know what the fucking phrase.
The little ants that
Mouse, it's like similar. It's like all these kids, they came from the academy team, right? Like that's a cool storyline, you know, like all this different sort of stuff. Then you look to NIP and it's like, who the fuck are these guys? Who the fuck is that? You know,
it's been that way for so long.
It's been that way for so long. Like, bro, I said like the biggest challenge for Alex is going to be like the first thing is going to be, does he have the same players 3 months from now? You know, like and then if that happens, then we can look. And then Blair, I saw Blair tweeted out like later on, you know, the transfer just in the last year, and there's been 11 in the last year. 11 transfers, bro.
Not.
It's been, we were even memeing about it at the start of the year where it was like, who was it? Like someone that was on the team, like Alexi joined, and he was just like, oh, I just want like, you know, a stable roster coming into the new year, right? Like let's just have a stable roster so we can like keep improving. And then like 5 days after that interview, Hampus like benching himself, like he takes a break. It's like, bro, this is like actually comical at this point. You couldn't even script this shit. So
holy shit,
yeah,
it is actually 11.
How Rez is still on that team is beyond me.
Yeah,
I would go to a fucking Swedish high school in Stockholm and grab a random kid out of there and put him into the team.
Yeah,
that would be better than still having Rez there. It's like, for
like
fuck's sake.
It kind of sucks.
It feels like it's like this story where like you've had this dog for a long time, and it's like you just like.
Oh, this is gonna go to a dark place.
And you just don't want to, like, you're supposed to like put him down, like it's time, but you just can't like do it. You just can't for the, like, you have so many nice memories, like that one time in Oakland, and it's
the
like
alternate ending to Old Yeller.
It's still imprinted into your brain, right? And you're just, oh no, just as soon as you wanna like. Well, however the fuck they do it, press the syringe and you're like, it flashes like him holding that plate and, winning the MVP. And like, I can't. It might.
That's what I was gonna say. Is like, he hasn't like been like bad, but like he was so built up to be like the next franchise and star player.
Bro, I fucking hate it. I hate it. He's been at times like. Just maybe, but for me, no. But I guess from their eyes, just like good enough. Okay, just not terrible enough where it can like, without a doubt, warrant a removal. He's probably like a nice guy, doesn't make a fuss, a good teammate, does what he's told, right? So seeing all the shit show they had around, outside of like just Rez as a player, they had bigger fires to put out. So he was just sort of, slowly burning in the corner there. Yeah. The eternal flame of Rez.
They've got some shit to work on.
So I don't know. I like Alex.
It's gonna take a miracle.
I don't think he'll be able to do much with his roster. Like I think they're going to make more changes. Until they remove Config and Rez, I'm not really interested in them at all.
You're out of the config world. What? You're out of the config world.
I was never in. I was never in that world, Jason. I didn't take the whatever.
Surely you were in like
pill.
2017.
Well, I wasn't on the train. I was like, okay, this guy is like,
he's got some game. Yeah, he's.
To be honest, in 2017, we had so many tournaments. We were just talking about the games. We didn't really have opinions like these.
Yeah, that's fair. I know what you mean. You mentioned ENCE, which would be a great segue, but I don't want to get into the Falcons world just yet. I want to circle around it a little bit more. What else have we got that's happened?
We've had dupreeh come to help out Heroic. They signed him until the end of the year, and now this is what I want to talk. So now Cadian is back for fall finals. Of course.
It's so fucking stupid.
So it's Cadian, Cadian, Shush, Tessis, dupreeh, and Zyphon. And I will tell you, Jason, I like that. I like that fucking. I like that roster, kinda, because you have like finally a proven winner in dupreeh, right? A guy who's not going to disappear on stage, like Stone does.
Yeah.
Right. And then you have Zyphon, who, for me, like, I think he's mechanically, like, good. And I think, like, I don't know, I felt like he was the one who sort of went to Sprout, in that whole, out of that whole Copenhagen Flames roster. Like, he felt like he didn't get the big opportunity, or maybe, like, he didn't deserve it and didn't really pop off.
Yeah, he was the only one who didn't find a home.
But I feel like potentially he could, like, be good, I would like to see him. Like, I think this could be a good opportunity for him to showcase what he has got. And sure, I was really like, I was for the removal of Tessis before, but now with him and Shush there and this different sort of an environment, maybe that liberates them a little bit in a sense of they don't feel the pressure as much. And I'm telling you, like, if I see this roster, and let's say, just hypothetically, I feel like this roster would have a better chance of lifting a trophy than the one with fucking, well, let's say Stone, definitely, like, because it felt like at this point, it doesn't matter that he's like their quote unquote best player mechanically if he just disappears in every big game. Like, dupreeh is objectively worse than him at this point, but if he's going to step up a little bit in the playoffs and this guy's going to fall off a cliff, well, at that point, who cares about the fucking group stages? And if they can like make up for, I'm just trying to like sort of talk myself into it at this point as well. Like, they also have the Cadian on the off sort of an issue, but I'm just saying, like, the problem with that team, it felt like, they're just a bunch of pussies when it comes to big games, sort of. And now, like, I feel like with dupreeh at the very least, he's not like that. So,
I think what's nice about it, because like whatever about the previous lineup, like you're right on all that, but like I think this is one of those rare moments where a lineup gets to go into an event and play literally like there's nothing to lose, because there is nothing to lose. For dupreeh, there's no way he's investing himself in like a rebuilding project for Heroic long term. I would be shocked if that happened. For him, he's kind of playing to show that he's still got it and can join a team that's a little bit closer to contention. I think for someone like Zyphon, he's playing for a contract. For Cadian, they're lucky he's even coming back, and that it's a classy move to not just go tell these guys, no, go fuck yourselves to an extent, you're playing for a trophy, you're playing for pride, and that's very much up Cadian's bill as someone who's like super just passionate and gives everything he has into the game. That's super on brand for him. But there actually is, to a certain degree, like nothing to lose for this lineup going into the event. I just think it's so fucking silly the way that this has all had to come about. And I have all the sympathy in the world. I usually take a different angle with orgs who are like, I don't think most people realize how I think there's like an expectation from the average fan that some of these esports orgs are run like, the professional sports teams that they followed from, soccer, from NFL, from NBA, whatever it is. And it's like most of these esports orgs are literally just people figuring it out as they go who they don't have the appropriate staff. Most staff in these orgs are working probably 3 different roles, splitting their time between things. And even with all that being said and all the sympathy I can have for that situation, this whole situation has been so fucked. And I know from the inside it's got to be completely different, but from the outside it's just like, how do you bungle it this badly? That you drop Cadian, and within 48 hours, the team crumbles to nothing. And then all of a sudden you're scrambling just to try and make sure that you still have a team moving forward, because you've mismanaged it so hard that 3 players literally don't want to be there anymore. That's an epic catastrophe. So it's a really mental situation, but yeah, I mean, there's some interesting things about it, and especially in a new game like CS2, like how things have changed a little bit and things can change. I think they can have a puncher's chance to cause some pretty big upsets as well with some of the talent they've got. And I think the nice thing too is the fact that Cadian's playing for them is perhaps a huge benefit in the sense that I don't even think he's going to try and be too complicated. He understands where this team is going to be at coming into this in terms of a thrown together lineup. It's going to be simple Counter-Strike. It's going to be in your face. It's going to be everyone fired up, and let's see what happens.
Yeah, right.
And I think that's kind of cool.
One last ride, baby. Fucking yeah. Also in the Royal Arena, if they can make it there, sure, the crowd is going to be on their side.
Oh, crowd's going to fucking love Cadian at this.
And
event.
also
absolutely love.
Don't have to talk about it, but also what all the implications, as we said, that has for Astralis and their roster. I mean, they played the Rubat Cup, they lost both of their games. They managed to lose to 9 on Ancient. That's all you need to know. So
they look like absolute dog shit at that event.
Yeah, so now they're going to China for CAC.
CAC.
Yeah, so we'll see how things will unfold with all of that. Oh, fuck. All right. What else is there? Well, there is a team
we can yeah.
But I was going to say there is a team that's not going to CAC that pulled out.
Sure.
And that's G2.
Let's wait on G2 because that's going to tie into the Falcons thing. Let's save that for a little bit later because we have there's another big one that kind of we can shift kind of, I guess.
It's all right. Just say what you want.
Falcons too. I was going to say Fnatic talking about.
Role? Oh, okay.
I was going to say mezii leaving Fnatic.
Okay.
To go to Vitality.
Yeah. I think it sucks for Fnatic, but I think it's a good move by Vitality. I mean,
really cool move.
Yeah, I think mezii has proven himself to be a great player, just individually, and also I think as a teammate. Right, we've seen him play pretty much every role there is since he got his opportunity with Cloud9. Shout out to Henry G for finding him, I guess.
The one gem in British Counter-Strike.
Yeah, he gets a lot of shit for like the stuff in Cloud9, but people fail to mention some of the the good things as well.
The positives, yeah.
Yeah, and so yeah, I think he's proven, you know, especially now that he's been in-game leader and then he wasn't, that he can definitely put up the big numbers. And he's also, you know, a mature guy. That's what I was shocked. I tweeted this out. Like, he's the same age as magisk. And magisk is only 25 still.
Yeah.
With winning,
I mean, dude, there's a lot of crazy star players we have that are shockingly young.
Yeah, and Electronic is also 25.
25, yeah.
So, yeah, I think with that, they get a guy who, you know, is a very good player. He was an in-game leader for a little bit, so, you know, that's definitely helped him understand the game a bit better on the macro level, so he can also be, because they've lost a little bit of, definitely lost some experience in veterancy with magisk, you know. Sure, him and mezii are the same age, but mezii doesn't have the same amount of experience, you know, or as he had the same amount of success. His career is also shorter than magisk, so that will help. Now it's basically, when you look at it, just Apex there as the super veteran, right? And then next one up is ZywOo, really. Have Spinks and Flamesy and mezii, who all sort of came around during this like COVID, post-COVID era was when they broke out. So we'll see how, you know, Vitality will figure that out. Xtaz is back, so that's going to feel great for Apex at the very least.
Actually, I'll be honest with you. I actually don't think, despite all these like rumors and these changes and everything. I mean, this is the assumption mezii is going to be joining as a full-time member. I actually don't think Vitality is coming out terribly in this, considering what they've lost. You know, like with magisk leaving. Zonic obviously gone. I mean, I've questions about Xtaz as a coach, but I mean, like mezii coming in, Spinks, Flames, ZywOo, Apex, like you have a pretty fucking solid team there, you know?
Yeah.
Like I feel like somehow they're coming out of this like not completely depleted. I guess most of it because the transfers have been like the staff, like the back end, rather than the team and the players themselves. But they're not coming out of this terribly in any sense of the word.
Yeah, I don't think so either. Right, the only thing is a little bit of that experience factor if they get into some, you know, big games. But also at this point, you know, someone like Spinks should have had enough, you know, with first his time in Ants, then even now his time in Vitality, you know, to be able to.
Seems like he's stepped up a lot since the major as well. Like he's actually like something seems to have clicked where he's gotten to a different level as a player. Not anything like super crazy, but he's definitely taken like that next step from when he joined the roster for sure.
Yeah, so I think.
I mean, next up, you'd hope would be Flames to take that similar kind of a step, and then we're cooking with gas.
Yeah, I know there were also inquiries about some other players, but by Vitality, but they needed to move fast. They wanted to move fast with this, so. You know, that's where they sort of ended up. And I think, yeah, I mean, it's also a fucking amazing opportunity for mezii to get on a, you know, team that won the last major, team that was #1 in the world for a good part of this year, right? To sort of take that next step.
Yeah, for sure. I guess. I mean, we've been kind of circling it. I guess this is where you kind of get into the conversation where you have to, in a sense, with Vitality of, you know, losing magisk, and I guess this is where we could get into like the G2 Falcons Vitality triangle of love.
Yeah. Well, I think, you know, obviously, well, yeah. I mean, so for now, what we have, and nothing is official, right? But it is seeming like, you know, magisk is going to Falcons and niko as well. That's how it's looking. You know, Zonic and Lars are already confirmed to be in Falcons. So yeah, I think look, let's start with the biggest one really being with niko and G2, right? Yep. I feel like for me, it really just looks like as a sort of a business decision where in a way, like, you know, he couldn't get the same from G2. Like G2 probably wanted him to also take a pay cut or something, and, you know, for him, he probably doesn't see a reason why he should do that. Like, feels like he's been delivering what he needed to, you know, individually. And then, you know, you have this Falcons roster on the other side, which sure, they can pay you well, But it's not that. It's not just that. I feel like, it's also, well, first of all,
it's got to be a little bit that.
No. I mean, of course it's going to be, but you look, there's Zonic is going to be there as your coach, right? The most successful and accomplished coach with the most accolades and trophies in CSGO, right? What was the one thing niko lacked that people can point to his career? It is some of those accolades, right? Up until major, obviously, but it's also been just big tournaments in general, which he's helped. He's gotten over that this year with G2 winning Katowice and Cologne. Right, but other than that, it has been pretty dry when it comes to trophies, despite his numbers and his form over the years. So I think, looking at how that roster is shaping up to be and seeing like, ooh, well, this is actually a fucking pretty sick team as well that I would go to. And it has like a great coach that, knows how to win and knows what it takes. I feel like that's an extra incentive to him. I feel the money is more there sort of as compensation for the fact that, Falcons isn't a partner team, and that only is going to matter for next year. But, there's a world in which you might miss a few of the big tournaments, if you fail to qualify or whatever, and that sucks for any player. So I think also, most importantly, if G2 was like, they did a little bit better post-break, right? Like they win Cologne. If they hadn't fucking lost to Vitality in Riyadh, right, and had another grand final against Tens, if they didn't sort of, Pro League, I'm not really sure what happened. It was just like, they were just kind of shit. But let's say even in Sydney, if they didn't like drop the ball so miserably, like in the semi-final, like and losing to Complexity, right? It's like, I feel like if they had a little bit more success as a team, niko wouldn't be looking to move teams at all. Like he would just not be interested. Why would you leave if you're... They're ranked number 1 in the world, by the way, right now.
Yeah.
But I feel like they just haven't been consistent enough for him to sort of just deny any, to just refuse any sort of an offer to transfer or to even like think about transferring. And then when you're like, well, we can be good, but we can also be shit, right, at times, and you don't have like full confidence in the lineup. So then it's like two things: either that lineup changes or you move teams. And I guess this just like made more sense, really. That's where I guess at that point is where the money becomes a factor too. It's like, okay, well, I could do either or, but with this move, I would get paid a little bit more as well. So that at that point, that's what how do you say it? Fucking turns it over.
Yeah, sure. I like that. I mean, much as kind of like our conversation around Zonic, I think that the money has to be a great factor in there. But I mean, if you're from niko's perspective, just looking at the lineup that's being put together, like what an opportunity, like this like in theory should be competitive right out the gate, with the biggest X factor being how do players transition to CS2 like on an individual level? Is it still going to be there? Are players going to catch up? Are they going to be putting the time in? Which, I mean, honestly, most of those I don't have any real concern with niko, but you add magisk into the mix. Like this lineup can compete pretty quickly, it feels like.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I think also, well, the rumor is about mezii. There's a lot of rumors about mezii. I mean, one of them is that he might go to Falcons with niko. The other one is that he wants to go to Cloud9 and just go to a Russian-speaking team, right, and play that way. And the third one is, well, it's not a rumor, it's just the stance of G2 that they don't want to sell him to anyone, which is like...
Which could be a statement to like drive up bids.
Sure. I mean, listen, there's not like there is definitely an offer you can't refuse in there, sort of a thing. But from G2's perspective, it's like, okay, someone like niko, he's a veteran, his contract situation is whatever. He would be very expensive to keep. And he's like, as I said, like he's getting up there. So okay, we would be willing to part ways with niko also for a significant sum of money. He's not walking for free, right? I'm sure his buyout is going to be substantial if that materializes. So then it's like for mezii it would be even more. But if your G2's aspirations, they're not there to sell players for a lot of money. They want to have a team that can win trophies, and I don't think, you can't really afford to lose both of those guys, it feels like. Unless you could get I don't know who, right? Yeah. So that's why you want to say like, hey, mezii is like and you tell mezii like we want to build this team around you in the future, right? Like you need a little bit more experience, sure, and to mature and all of that stuff, but we want you in for the long haul. So you could even get a say in which we would ask you for which players you like or sort of value your opinion and that sort of a thing, right?
Well, this is where we get to go first full circle back to like the positives that of Henry G as the GM of Cloud9 back in the day was, he was very public and open about the contracts that he was signing. And in my head, I'm kind of like, I don't recall, did mezii like re-sign with G2? Because he went there on like an academy contract, which is
I'm
like
sure he has
salary.
I'm sure he has like a proper like a full, full time. He has.
Okay.
He has.
Okay, sure.
But sure, okay. Like now you can like renegotiate.
Yeah, but like that'd be the interesting thing, right? Would be like it's not so much about the contract expiring. It's like G2 might have him on the cheap for now, but when it comes to renegotiations, but yeah,
but they could re-sign him right now for like more money. Like.
Well, I think the biggest thing to take away is I think if you look at G2, if niko's leaving, you can't lose mezii.
Yeah. Exactly. That's like
that's kind of the big takeaway. So I mean, maybe and in an industry where everyone, as we can see across the board in reports of like, we're only hearing about like the purse strings tightening because of like, Zonic is high profile and niko is high profile. I imagine that's happening across the board, even with players where that won't necessarily make any kind of a big sexy headline. Teams aren't going to be lining up to pay whatever mezii's buyout fee would be. You said there's always a number. There is always a number, but probably the only team who could afford it would be Falcons backed by Saudi. So, you're
but
kind
of... at that point, it's also like, I wonder what Falcons' thought process is. Like, obviously, they're going, like, in big, right? Like, first you get Zonic, right? Now you're getting, like, magisk, niko.
Well, they're rumored to be going after snappi as well.
Right? Which is, like, that's an interesting one because, I mean... he's definitely a great team game leader, all of that, but it's also like he's like 33, right, or something. Like I'm not questioning his motivation or anything like that. It's just like that's going to be really interesting to see for how long can he actually like keep going, right? Like he's going to be one of the first ones because he's one of those guys who also puts time in individually. He doesn't want to sort of be a burden for his team, but I think it's great. So then it's like, okay, do you really want to open up the bag and really go for more, like however much it costs, we're going to get him. And then you would have a lineup of, allegedly, snappi, magisk, niko, mezii, and boros. Bro, that's a fucking...
That's a banging lineup.
That's a banging lineup, right? But let's say for a second
I don't think there's a world in which they get mezii.
Yes.
I'll say that right now. I don't think there's a world.
If they don't get mezii, right, who else could they go for? And one of the names, like
Shiro.
What?
Shiro.
Yeah, but I don't know like how good his English is.
No, we already went over that.
So it's like, first of all, I didn't really consider like snappi that much. It's like, well, would he really want to leave ENCE, right? Like that's with some of these teams that are playing really well. Why would you want to leave? But for like fucking more money, like for from ENCE to Falcons, that would be significant, right? The difference in how much you're making. And then also, like, you wouldn't be going to a shit team. You would be going to, like, a team with, like, really good players, arguably better players that you have on your roster right now. So, okay, if the snappi thing is a thing, then why not go for his teammate? Sampaius.
Yeah. I get, yeah.
How does that make you feel, Jason, when you hear that?
I mean, it makes me feel a lot of ways, a lot of conflicting ways. I like it. I like it from the sense it's a cool lineup for Falcons to have. I feel bad because I really like ENCE, and I don't want to see that explode. However, I also know, and as we've seen, ENCE has been willing to make the deal because they've had so much confidence in their ability to rebuild and find talent and find cheaper talent than most other orgs. I guess the question would become, if you take it from Ence's perspective, how much of that was reliant on snappi as an in-game leader? How much was it reliant, on Snappy's ability to kind of work with Saw as a coach and kind of develop things that make things work for the players that they're bringing in? Because, I mean, we watched them replace Spinks, which we knew was going to be tough. Sampayas coming in, and they made him work as well. So yeah, if Sampayas leaves, if Snappi leaves, I don't know if you're Ents. You'd probably be willing to deal
you
one of them.
Shouldn't feel bad for Ents. They're going to get
both.
Shit ton of money, I feel like, for those two players, if that's the thing. So they'll be able to, like, first of all, they'll make bank.
Let's say they lose Snappy and
for our boy
Sampayas.
Natu, but also they would have money to make transfers to get like two good players. They wouldn't have to get I don't know who,
Yeah, but I don't know if you could replace an in-game leader and an AWPer of a team like that.
Well, it's really
I just
obviously it's really hard. Like,
yeah,
it's the two hardest roles to get. But you could get, like, for example, who you could get then? OC.
Shiro.
You get OC as an AWPer potentially. Well, I don't know. He would have to all this shit, but I like OC. I want him to land somewhere. I want him to land on his feet.
Yeah, I would like that as well.
And then it's like, then they just need an in-game leader then. There's plenty of those around, as we all know.
Yeah, that's fair.
But who would have I wanted Falcons to get as the AWPer, right? And I'm sure Zonic would have too, but he just resigned. I think like that would actually be impossible, was Device. Get fucking Deve back with Zonic. Imagine
that'd be cool.
Snappi, Device, and magisk. Back with magisk as well. Snappi, Device, magisk, Niko, and Boros.
And then eventually you find a way, and then Boros isn't cutting it, so you go back and you get Zipix.
Get the pre.
You're like, let's one last ride, boys. Time to suit up.
Yeah, but no, we're now just like going into La La Land. But let's stick to the fucking. So yeah, I think like I don't see. I mean, sure, Ants could also be like, well, we don't want to part ways with both players. Like we don't want to lose both Snappi and Sampayas. But I don't know. I don't think they're G2 has the pull to say that and to compensate their players for not letting them leave. But does Ants have that? I don't feel like they're that strong as an org, financially or anything to be able to say no, right? To be able to refuse that sort of an offer.
I don't know. In one sense, maybe not. They don't have as much money, but on the other sense, they are one of the very few profitable teams in Counter-Strike. So
yeah, and this would keep them profitable. So
yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
I think that could be, because who else could they go for as an AWPer? Let's say the four players you have are Boros, Niko, magisk, and Snappi. Who do you go for? Not you don't get mezii. Let's say you don't get Sampayas.
I mean, there's probably some AWPers out there that you could.
Can't get
well, again, it could also. Here's a question. Like, here's a question too. Like, do you take? What if you? I mean, it'd be interesting. What if you?
Say it, Jason.
I don't think this would happen. What if you went for Halzerk?
Oh no! Fuck off! No, he's not good enough.
Okay,
he hasn't. He's at one point. I think like what's holding him back for the most part is his mental. But you're not taking a risk. You're not getting Halzerk. Jesus Christ.
Here's an angle I want to propose to you, because this is like, and maybe this.
You would do that to your boys from Complexity?
I know, that's why I'm thinking like, well, I'm just saying, the potential is there. Halzerk maybe returning to EU, you could get him on that angle if you think he's got value. But also look at it from this perspective too, because this is the way I'm trying to think things through. If you think of things as like a GM, right? And this is where it would kind of actually be fun to get Kassad's take on this. But if you take the angle of a GM and you're feeling like AWPers at the moment are weak, which I don't think will last. I have to imagine AWPers are going to find a way to have more impact in CS2 more so than they're feeling at the moment. Yeah. And I'm not even entirely sure they're as nerfed as people say they are. But if you take the angle of a GM, could you say for the moment in CS2, Oppers aren't having the same impact as we saw at the end of CSGO. So let's put a lower priority on that. So let's get someone serviceable, but it doesn't have to be like the star Opper that we needed at the end of CSGO. You know, like we saw towards the end, if you didn't have a star Opper, you were really going to struggle to win championships in CSGO.
Yeah, sure.
Could you say, let's ride this out for 6 months with a serviceable Opper?
You could get someone who's also really good with a rifle, right? Who's like a good rifler as well. Maybe you could go for head trick. You know, perhaps that's like an option.
just really kick NIP in the dick.
No, I think also I liked like in Dallas when Regali was standing in for OG. I feel like now he's there full time. I don't know. He showed some really good things. I think this OG team sucks, so I don't think that's like a fair sort of environment for him to showcase what he's got. But I think he just hasn't shown enough yet to be able to go to a team like Falcons. But I think if I were like Ents, if I lose some pies, I would go for him, for example. Like, I think that...
What about... Oh, this is a real swing for the fences, Yanko.
Which one?
You're probably gonna fucking hate this.
Shiro?
What about Martinez?
Nah. I feel it's also... I don't hate it.
Not ready yet?
Him. Yeah, I don't think he's ready yet. He needs to prove himself a little bit more. That's the thing, right? Like, for teams like... I think for Ends, sure. Just fucking do it to Movistar again. Right, but like
this is also like such a weird like conversation too, because like we don't like, you know, there's a certain sense when you talk about this with Falcons where because they're backed by the Saudis, you're almost like they have an unlimited budget.
They don't.
So you're like,
you know,
they don't, but like you feel that way. So it's like if we're just going crazy,
right? Like, well, that's the thing. Like, there's different levels of crazy, Jason. You know,
yeah,
I've been with different levels of crazy. I can tell you that.
We're all young once in a life. What about like? I mean, we can. This can also be like a little bit of a pivot. I still don't know like what the fuck's going on with FaZe. I don't know if that team's blowing up or not. But like, what about Brokey? Okay, you just hate all my fucking.
Well, no, it's like, listen, Brokey's my boy. Like we brought him on, right? But I think he hasn't evolved enough.
He's not a pure Opper.
No, yeah, that's fine. But I think
he's by no means
I think he hasn't like evolved enough in the direction of just being able to be more static at times, you know? Like just to be more chill at times in his game, right? Like it's always constantly moving around, right? Jumping, going like even moving your car, moving away, right? Sometimes like that creates, he makes bad timings for himself by moving unnecessarily, right? And being like a bit...
It's also what makes him being such a dynamic offer.
Yes, and his style is still... I like it. Like it was like, I think it was Prof who tweeted, or Striker, about that play he made in Sydney when he went through the door on overpassing connector and got a flash and jumped into water and killed 2 more guys after already getting 2 more kills. Like that one play is why you love and hate Brokey at the same time. Right? Yeah. That like he would fucking go for that and try to make that play when it's like kind of unnecessary, but also that he would actually make it work, you know, and be that crazy. So I think either he will evolve more or he won't, and then you'll just have to sort of build the game around him a little bit, right? In that way where you just have to accept that that's how it is with him, you know, and account for it because that style just brings a lot of randomness to your game, and most people don't like randomness.
Isn't this where you'd want to say we brought Zonic here for a reason? We brought the best coach in Counter-Strike here for a reason, and it is to take a player such as Brokey and say, look how good you are with playing like a crazy bat out of hell so frequently. Like if let's get you with Zonic. Let's tamp this down a little bit. Let's find moments where you can kind of unleash that, and then have this greatest of all time coach teach you the right way to play things and shift your play style to where that is an aspect of your game rather than the defining feature of your game, and escalate your game as an Opper. Take you from a very good Opper to a great Opper. Like, wouldn't that almost be an area where you'd say that's part of Zonic's skill set that you want to take advantage of?
Yes, but also there's only so much Zonic can even do, or anyone can do if a player isn't really receptive.
Yeah, you'd have to have the conversation with Brokey, right?
It would be a big sort of gamble, I feel like. And there's another one that's like kind of obvious, but maybe also not, that we haven't really mentioned, is like, what about Simple? But I think really he should just stay away for at least some months.
It's that one's tough because obviously
I think probably the best one for Falcons.
It's almost worth the gamble.
It would be,
but at the same time, do you want? Yeah,
no, it would be either mezii or snappi. I feel like either of the two would be amazing, because with mezii, obviously he's young, he's the Flash, and he comes over with niko, so he has that sense of familiarity, and that's gonna help him out a lot. And with snappi, it's a similar thing. You get a guy who's proven himself in big games. He's evolved also as a player, become more influential on the T sides too. That was like a knock on him when he first was joining. And so he stepped up. He showed that he can deliver in big games. He feels like this calm presence too. And also you get him over with snappi. They are familiar with each other. Snappi knows like how to use him. They have a good relationship, right? So I feel like either of the two, like, Falcons is set. I think other than that, everything else is a little bit more unknown, a little bit more risky. It doesn't feel quite right. Like you will get like a good player. Like, let's say if you go for, I don't know, head trick, it's a good player. You'll be okay, right? But how far could you go? How good could it be? How good will it be?
I don't know. I honestly, I don't fully rate head trick quite yet. Like, he's obviously got skills and he's good. I'm just like I'm not that high on him, to be honest with you.
That's fair, Jason. You don't have to be.
I know.
So what else? Yeah. So what happens to fucking G2? Who does G2 get if you lose niko? Is that the only change they make, or like that they're forced to make? Do they like, what is Hooksy still like the guy for that team?
Yeah, I mean, I think he's got to be, in the sense that like you have all these like moving parts to a certain extent. Like, who else are you going to go out and get at this point? Well, I mean, because the other weird one is like the niko thing is one thing, but also like Hunter was linked to a bunch of rumors with other teams as well. So I mean,
was he?
That team has got to be.
He was.
I think he was. Yeah.
I think also. I think it might have been a situation where like he's sort of waiting to see what happens with niko. Is he like leaving or is he staying? And then by the time that was decided, his ship might have sailed.
I mean, it's also like, it's so hard to like know how far some of these conversations get, right? Like you like, obviously some talks happen and just don't go anywhere, but the talks is still there. Yeah, I don't know where G2 goes, but I mean, granted they don't lose mezii. I think they can find someone. I think if you're G2 going into with all the reports coming out that like they wanted niko to take like less money as well, I would be surprised to see G2 kind of like splash money to get another star player, right?
But I mean, you would get a lot of money for niko, so
right. But wouldn't it be more of a risk?
What?
Like, in terms of the player you pick up to replace niko, would you think you'd go for? Would you go for an established? Do you think G2 is going to go for an established star? Because I think they'll go for someone who's like kind of like like a budding player, someone who has the potential to be a star but hasn't quite had that opportunity yet.
Yeah, there's like sort of two ways they could really go with that. So they could try to get someone like we don't know what the fuck is going on.
It's also fucking stupid because how do you talk about
like really try to go and get someone like Grops?
Yeah.
Right? But that feels like unlikely. That feels like too high of a target. Do they also go towards Ants and try to get nerds? I feel like if Ants loses snappi and snappi, that's it. They're not like letting any more players leave. You would like to maybe get someone like Frozen, but you don't see him leaving Mouse at the moment, right? With how well they're playing, maybe I don't know. I don't think like you could really. I don't think
I would be
maybe like because it would also again they could offer him more money and shit, but I don't think he would really leave at this point. And then it is like some of the more interesting names that you would have to like, oh, like mezii would have been a good shout, but he's gone already. So maybe someone like Isaac from Gamer Legion.
Really?
Well, that's your like sort of, that's not 100% proven name that you could try and get and give a chance to.
I guess so. Would you, if you're on Mouse, if you're one of those, shut the fuck up. You almost slipped that one past me. If you're on Mouse, would you even consider leaving that team? Like, wouldn't you feel if you're one of those players, like you kind of like owe it to yourself and obviously to your teammates to like see how that lineup does to start CS2? Like if you're frozen, would you actually entertain offers?
I mean,
like you've just now busted your ass for years to get to this point.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Wouldn't you just say, let's see how,
Probably not, right? At this point, probably not.
I think
you would give
crazy
it at
thing
least
is
some more time.
And GMs obviously would have more information than us and everything in behind the scenes, but maybe not actually. Did I say that? But like this whole FaZe thing, like of the not knowing what's coming of this FaZe lineup and this FaZe team, man, it's because those, you're right, those would be like super desirable players to go after to a certain extent. I mean, Kerrigan as an IGL or a coach, Rops obviously, Brokey would be a really, really cool piece to a team that's like kind of on the rise. Rain could be a really cool establishing piece to a team that needs a little bit more experience. Like there's so many aspects to FaZe that because we don't know the extent to which that team is breaking up, and this is all under the assumption that Twist is going to Liquid.
Yeah, that's the one thing for me, which is like, well, FaZe in this online thing, they're in the semifinal. They beat Mouse in the quarters. They 2-0 their group, and the next they're playing, I think, Cloud9, right, in this like Thunderpick thing. So what happens if FaZe fucking wins that, goes to CAC, and also like wins that,
which they can do?
Could you really leave at that point if you're Twists? Like you just won 3 tournaments in a row, 2 LANs.
Yeah, I don't know how far the conversations. I don't know how far the conversations with Liquid. As far as I know, everything is just like verbal, but pretty much like a pretty committed verbal. Because I mean, it's the same thing with Cadian. He still has the verbal commitment to go to Liquid after the fall finals that he plays with Heroic.
Yeah. But hey, there was also a verbal agreement with Heroic that Staon and Yabi are going to extend their contracts, and now they want to go to fucking Astralis. So that tells you how much fucking verbal agreements are worth in this industry.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. There was also a verbal agreement for fucking Simple to join MIBR back in the day.
And Flamey, and then
Flamey.
Yeah, we also heard like fucking, Liquid was in talks, tried to talk to Xerato, but he wasn't really like interested. He really wants to ride it out. At this point, Furia is 21st in the world behind MIBR at 20th, so they're not even the highest rated Brazilian team.
The nice thing about that is now at this point you've got nobody to blame but Xerato.
Yeah.
He's had the chances, because I know those conversations happened around Dallas as well. Like there's been a couple times they've reached out to him to try and get him away and bring him in and everything, and it just hasn't ever come to fruition. Yeah. It's hard, man. It's hard to get those Brazilians away from the Brazilian teams. They really want to stick, and that's kind of a point that I've been making for a while. Is like for the Americas scene to get back. It's like we have not seen the kind of melding of the Brazilian or South American scene with the North American scene the way we've seen like all the European international rosters come together. And that seems like it'd be like a no-brainer at some point. That's got to start happening to be competitive.
Yeah.
They're like there's one competitive America's team at the moment. That's it.
That's fucked up. I'm just going through this list, man, trying to figure out.
Should we touch on that? Because we kind of talked about actually right before we went live was the new changes to the major seeding and the major designations and everything like that. Right? They've taken away the contenders, challengers, and legends. Thank God. It is now
challengers, legends, and champions. But okay, Jason, nice to see you know the names.
My bad, whatever. I was reading it off the tweet, to be honest with you. So
now it's opening, elimination, and playoffs, which makes a lot more fucking sense
Yeah.
I even
a
got
lot
confused
easier.
in which fucking stage we were when I was like doing all this shit. It's like a legend stage, and it's not the last stage.
Yep.
That used to be the last stage. Fuck all that noise. But
And the most important part of the whole thing is the seeding at the major and RMR within each region is based on the regional major rankings by Valve rather than your ranking at the RMR. So FaZe kind of going out, or like, a team going out in the last seed of the RMR.
yeah, so
And then
basically,
being like,
yeah, what it was you use the rankings to get into the RMR or for the close qualifier for the last one. But then once the RMR started, in which position you ended at the RMR, that would be your seed for the major, right? So FaZe, because they had to go through the last chance, and major comes along, they are ranked 16th. They're the lowest seeded team in their pool, actually in the second phase, and just because of that result, and in the world at the time they were ranked number 3. So that doesn't make really any sense. That because so they removed this, that just you're only seeded based off of the results at the RMR, which was ludicrous to begin with, because you also had the best of ones. So a team would win like 2 best of ones and 1 best of 3 and be ranked as if they're like number 2 in the world. Like, that's just mental. Even now saying it out loud, I'm like, just, but so this is way tilting. Better. But I love Valve because it can't ever be just we're gonna fix something. So what they did as well, now they changed the fucking pairings. Right? So before, with this fucked up seeding from the RMR, you would have 1 versus 16, 2 versus 15, right? Like the highest plays the lowest, right? But now you have it 1 versus 9, 2 versus 10, 3 versus 11, 4 versus 12, and all the way down where the 8 seed plays the 16 seed in the first round. And then after that, the Swiss continues where the highest plays the lowest from their pool, as long as there isn't a rematch, right? Which is just typical Valve. So hypothetically, right, or supposedly, with this change of how you see the teams coming into the RMR and the major, you are fixing the fucking problem where you had, FaZe had to play NaVi in the opener because the first seed would play the 16th seed, but the 16th seed would be the 3rd best team in the world, right? So that would be fixed because FaZe could have never been the 16th seed, so NaVi would have to play like fucking Greyhound or whoever, which is fine. That's how it's supposed to be, right? So now they fixed that, but then they changed it so the number 1 seed plays the 9th seed, which would still, in some unit, I don't know how the seeding will exactly work in terms of, so let's say, would that mean, let's say that complexity is the number 1 seed in America, so that would give them like the 4th seed globally, right? Because the number 1 seed from that region has to be in the whatever stage,
Sure.
So that would still give you a world in which, let's say, potentially you could have G2, let's say, because G2 is number 1 in the world now, like play Astralis in the opening round instead of Apex, which is like, still to me, why are you like changing it? Just leave it like as it was supposed to be. Like this is supposedly so that the games are like a bit closer, the matchups, right, in the first round.
Yeah,
but why is that important?
Yeah,
because like for me, it's to be the first seed, man. It's hard. You have to earn that shit. And now, not even just by being good at the RMR, you have to earn that shit for like an extended period of time. So you should be rewarded from playing the lowest seed.
Well, for me, this all like sounds good in theory, and I'm with you. I like it a lot, but on the condition that the Valve rankings are going to make logical sense. Because as we saw when CS2 came out, they announced some of those the addition of the regional major rankings. So much of it is based off like prize money, so you can win an online event for 200,000 and shoot up the rankings. So this is all kind of predicated on the fact that Valve is going to be tweaking the system they use to actually ensure that their rankings are accurate and up to date and reflect the scene as we know it at that time. and the events that have importance, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like that's what scares me the most.
Yeah,
is some
that
kind
it
of
first it has to be
lackadaisical
good.
approach.
And it is open source, so
Yeah.
people can like give suggestions to improve it and to change it. Right now, it's like prize money earned is like the number one, and then it's like how the team you beat, how much prize money have they made, and like, which is also like unfair to non-partner teams still, because you know, being a partner, and also because we give fucking money for being dead last, which is also stupid, but okay. And now that's going to be a sort of a talking point because it will have impact on the ratings, you know.
Can we get rid of prize money for last place teams?
Yeah, for like fucking.
Can we be done with that?
Yes, please. I've been saying.
When can we be done with that? When can we get away with this?
As soon as possible. Like, I feel like, because also for these teams that qualify sometimes, like the qualifier, let's say, is like some championship. So you get something for first place there. Like, you should get money for wins. You shouldn't get shit if you're dead last, right? Because the tournament pays for your travel and accommodation. Is like, you know, you're not going out of pocket to get there. So they're not covering your expenses. I mean, they're covering your expenses already, so you don't need extra money for it. And if you get a win, let's say you get 5K, whatever, 10K, I don't care. But if you are just lose all your games, why would you get any prize money? It should be a little bit more top heavy, I feel like. But yeah, I think it will be better than what it was, for sure, the seeding. But whether it will be it, I kind of find that hard to believe with everything. But
sure.
But you know, I guess small steps, Jason. Name change is good. The way they see the teams coming into it is good. The change to who plays who in the first round, I feel like is unnecessary. But perhaps in the grand scheme of things, it won't be a huge deal.
Huge deal.
Right? Like, I don't know. It might cause like, might make it easier for the underdogs, but it's like, that's the thing for me, you know, like the 16 seeded team, like they're not supposed to make top 8, right? Like they're just not. If they do, then that's like this wow moment. It's like, wow, they did like, you know, they beat some.
If they do, we all bitch and complain about upsets and underdogs until time ends.
Yeah, what I want to know, Jason, is will they fucking get rid of best of ones? That's what I want to know now. Because that would feel, if they fucking stick with the best of ones.
There's no
That's
way.
going to be ludicrous. Like, for the major and with MR12 now and all of that, like, it just feels like you can't possibly.
Yeah, but
you can't possibly like fucking do that.
Yeah, but come on, we know that's not gonna happen. Just like I you know.
Why not?
I don't.
Why isn't it?
Well,
tell the people. The people want to know.
It's first of all, one. People like upsets, and best of ones provide those upsets, and they are exciting, and they change the nature of a tournament, and they change your expectations, and so there is a certain level of interest. Two, and this is probably the bigger one, is money. It's money. We could probably go through and talk to people in like, you know, the ESL, you know, accounting departments or travel departments and say, if we change this, like how much more if you made every single game a best of 3 at the major. You add what, like 1 to 2 days per group stage, which is, you know, maybe like 4-ish days overall to the event, let's say. And then you say, okay, 4 days times, you know, would have 5 players per teams in terms of hotel rooms, in terms of food they have to be able to eat, in terms of transportation costs. And all of a sudden you say changing best of 3 is going to add, you know, X amount of, you know, hundreds of thousands of dollars onto the.
Yeah, but I mean, it's also up to the fucking players. I mean, this is something that the players should complain about, not us to the same extent, because it's, you know, it's most important for them. But you could say also, if you're, why do they have to be in such a nice hotel when all you do, no, for real, when all you do is like, well, you're there to play.
Come on.
What?
Don't at least let's not play dumb about this. We know from over the years that like the hotel quality was like the number one complaint of players.
I know,
for
dude,
the longest
but that was
time.
also because that was also during times where there were no like practice rooms and shit, and You would just play a game and then you would like be at the hotel. Now I feel like if you have a prac room in the hotel and the hotel is like nice, I'm not saying like put them into a fucking shithole. I'm just saying it doesn't have to be the Hyatt Regency. You know, for example. Doesn't have to be a fucking 5-star hotel. It could be a nice...
Not that we're staying at the Hyatt Regency.
We were.
I'm just fucking around.
Yeah, no, but like, you know, so if it's like decent and they have a good environment to play and practice, and it's like, let's say, just in an okay area, right? Like where maybe, if, you know, there's something you can do nearby. Like, yeah, save money on that if you can. I feel like maybe even if you went to the players, like they would fucking take that trade-off. Hey, listen, we can make it best of 3 all the way, but, you know, that's going to involve more days of competition. That's going to involve more cost, and the best way for us to cut these costs to make, you know, the difference is to, you know, change the hotel a little bit. And you give them like 1 or 2. You show them what kind of a hotel it would be. I'm sure, bro, it would be fine, you know? And then you leave it up to them.
Yeah, I'm a little bit more skeptical on that one, but you're right. I mean, there are ways you could cut the cost down. It'd be a very interesting thing to be able to bring to the table and say, if you change to best of 3, it adds this many days, which is extra days in the hotel, which is extra days. It'd be interesting to see what like the monetary value a TO would attach to that. You know, I actually think that'd be a very cool figure to have knowledge of.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I know that the biggest problem, one of the biggest reasons for that is cost. Also, one of the problems is that we have the motherfucking Swiss system still. Why are we playing fucking Swiss? It's dog shit. It's shit. It's horrible. Fuck off with the Swiss system.
Yeah, right? I'm not the biggest fan
for
of the Swiss system. For a 16-team
tournament, like let's just do fucking 4 groups of 4, GSL, best of 3 all the way. See ya. With good seeding, then you gotta have.
Yeah, exactly.
We don't need to have everyone play everyone, you know, or the opportunity for that to happen. Why is that so important? To who is it important? Why are we just continuing with this? You know, because this is how it's been done. It's not how it's always been done. It's how we've had GSL best of 3s for the majority of time. Then we changed. Now ESL has this in between. ESL, their big tournament has this sort of a, you know, expanded GSL double elimination bracket, which is also, they could just also fucking kind of copy that in a sense.
I don't mind this. I don't mind the Swiss system. I would like to lose Buckles as like just a.
That's a fucking thing. That's just trying to make a shit thing. Like, you know, I don't know. You're trying
to wrap a piece of you're trying to wrap a turd in like gold wrap.
Yeah, it's like exactly something like that. It's like, I'm sure there's a better idiom for this, but
there is.
You know, it's like a terrible idea to begin with, and then you're trying to like patch the whole, you know, like a sinking ship, and you're trying to like, you know, get a bucket and fucking pull water back out in the ocean. You know, like.
When the Swiss system was at its best was during the E-League majors, when they actually had like the live draws, so you could actually get the excitement of the randomness of who a team is going to play, and you'd have all the teams and players in a room, and everyone would be watching anxiously to see who they were going to draw to play in the first round or the next round, and you'd hear the gasps and you'd hear the excitement, and you'd be able to sit on the desk and be like, oh shit, that's the worst draw for like that. That made the Swiss system interesting because it actually brought some stories into the matchups. I hate going into Swiss system matches where it's like, if they win, they play this team. If they lose, they play this team. And it's like, great, well, sick. You know, like, why?
Yeah. Why do I feel like
why do we take all the cool elements out of it?
That's a good point that we never really talked about. Like, we should be doing some of that shit live. Just make it a part of the broadcast and do like, you know, a discussion about it. Yeah, I think, but, you know, yeah, I hate it. I feel like so many things could be improved, but fuck it. That's like a whole rabbit hole to go down. Are you excited about NRG exploring a return to CS?
Yeah, I am. Especially, I mean, any org that comes back into Counter-Strike in the Americas region has got me a little bit turned on. So that would be cool. cautiously excited, I guess. Like I'd be very curious about the roster they put together. Obviously, they're very close with Daps. We saw kind of a little flirtation with Daps coming back toward as an in-game leader towards the end of his tenure as coach over in Team Liquid. I don't know how I feel about that. And if I had, I'd be mostly worried about NRG coming in and just grabbing the names. I think Maui tweeted this out, and it's like a lineup that seems really cool at like face value because the names are known and are interesting, of like Daps, Breeze, Stewie, and it's like if you're gonna come back in, I'd rather you actually like go like grab a couple experienced players, but like go younger, go for new unfounded NA players. That's where you're gonna make your money, is like having a team that's interesting to watch and follow, building up some talent, getting a team that the region's going to be able to identify with. And I think coming back to like bringing Stewie back is a risk of a certain level. Although I think the world of Stewie's abilities, I don't know what he's going to come back as. Same thing for Breeze, obviously really talented for what, like 2 years of his career, and then tanked in EG over COVID and never made the rebound. Daps coming back, if he's actually going to play, is like, that's a huge risk too. And I think all of a sudden, if you go down that road, you're kind of starting out in this hole. And I like all those guys. It's just like, that seems like a lot of if statements for an organization re-entering the space. But I think it speaks a lot too, though, from like more of like the industry perspective, where when NRG like kind of left the scene, remember they had said things like, they were like, the economic situation of running a Counter-Strike scene in this region doesn't make any sense. They were talking at the time that I think they said, like, I think the number was like, to run a North American Counter-Strike team at the time that they departed, which was what, 2019, was like 2 million a year-ish, give or take. So I guess it's kind of interesting in a way. And he had a good quote about saying like, it's the org's faults for letting salaries get this out of control. So I think an org of that stature coming back and attempting to like do things the smarter way would be a good thing. But more than anything, and I guess it's a chicken and the egg, the biggest thing NA needs is more events. Like we need a tournament circuit here in the States. And obviously, I've kind of beat the drum to get ESL to do more events and Blast to do some events in NA. That's not going to happen. I'd be surprised if we saw a Blast event in North America next year. I think we'll obviously have Dallas from ESL, and that's about it. We need to have some kind of an operator running events that these teams can take place in, that they aren't just like the only glimpse of North American or of America's Counter-Strike that American fans can't be going over to Europe and getting destroyed for the next like 2 years while they try and get experience. There has to be something that we can put in front of them here that American Counter-Strike fans can get excited to watch and see. A tournament, that they can see the Americas teams compete against each other to be able to establish the Americas hierarchy, because we don't even have that.
Yeah, I agree. Like, has to start with somewhere, and in their defense,
I realize I just bulldozed through any opinion you might have on NRG, but
it's all right. But it's also just like, it's just there's not that much talent for them to sift through. But over time, you're hoping that is going to.
Well, you'd think that now would be the time, though, right? With CS2 coming out, and again, the biggest problem with like sifting through talent is seeing them play in the environment, in the element of a tournament. And if you don't have those tournaments in NA, how can you really pick the talent? Because otherwise, you're just kind of rolling the dice off what the Premier Leaderboard.
Well, what you can do, Jason.
Start a tournament organizer.
You can create the blueprint and create a pipeline for talent. Bro, I lost it last night. I was probably a little bit drunk still when I got back and saw this tweet. Nocte tweeted it. The journalist HLTV, and it's a screenshot of Nicole Lapointe, whatever, the ex
her LinkedIn profile.
CEO, yeah, and how she described her time at EG. I'm gonna read through all of it. Like, you guys
it's just a paragraph of buzzwords.
Yes, it's so like, it's everything that I probably hate about like just the culture at the moment, right? And the mentality,
corporate culture, and
all of that. But also, it's like I felt like I started feeling like physically like ill when I read all of that, because this is a person that drove one of the most renowned,
decorated legacy.
Yes, organizations like into the fucking ground. Like she has the goal to even write and at some it's like and grew team from 8 employees to more than 100, and now back to 8. You know, like that's what one guy replied, which was like funny as fuck. But it's also like maybe that was the fucking problem. Maybe you made the fucking org too bloated for what it needed to be. And it's also like, where was this part? I couldn't believe this shit. Where was this? Okay, transform the brand from a loss leader to an organization that boasts the most championships, 180 in brackets, and is the most watched esports brand in the industry with an inclusive lens. That's just fucking false. That's just lying. Like, that's why I said I almost wanted to make a LinkedIn account just to fucking go on her profile. And I don't even know how LinkedIn works, but right, this person is a fraud. Everything that she wrote about her time in EG are baseless fucking lies. It's actually, and you know why it bothers me? It bothers me. It bothers me because I'm sure, man. Like, I don't know a lot of people in EG personally. I know like Valens and a couple of other people. I'm sure there's a lot of good people in that org. The people like in the middle, or the people who were just working there and stuff. And those are the people that get shafted in the end by morons like this, right? Like just good like fucking people who have passion for esports and could have gone into like a quote-unquote proper industry with their skills, but they want to work in esports, and then they're fucking stuck with an idiot who comes from who sees this just as a like fucking stepping stone or whatever on the resume, doesn't understand fuck all about anything about esports or how our industry works or how the working environment is supposed to be in esports, right? And just ruins it really for everyone with her fucking woke bullshit and nonsense and focusing on all the wrong things. Meanwhile, the players are being fucking mistreated, like fucking heinous shit coming out about from employees there about all the fucking gross negligence and the sheer incompetence coming from her and people around her that came from the same fucking whatever peak 16 or that she handpicked to fucking be in key management positions. Fuck you. And fuck off. What type of a fucking coward do you have to be to just delete your social media? Like, you can't even handle the criticism, like, from whoever it is, right? You're just like, oh yeah, I'm out. You know, when the little success that they've had at times, they were so fucking vocal about it. That fucking one win that they had, you know, like in CS, one match over Heroic, and everyone in EG is like up in arms. I know in League they had some success, like they won a split one time or something like that. You know,
I think, I think in League too, I think like some of those wins matter a little bit more than in the Counter-Strike space, just due to the way that the scene is structured. But yeah, like that was the whole thing. Was like they found like a system that worked for them for a split in League and tried to bring that over to Counter-Strike, and it failed. It failed. That page, that post was weird. It was very weird to read.
I just hate it. I hate everything about it. As you said, it's like corporate, whatever buzzwords and bullshit. Like, raise strategic capital and growth equity, including a 15 million investment with FaZe International, owner of the English Premier League team Wolverhampton Wanderers. Even fucking misspelled Wanderers. It's Wanderers. It's not Wonders. I think. I'll check. Featured in NYT deal book. Who gives a fucking flying fuck? Who cares? I know who cares. Morons like her who employed her in the first place and put her there. Some idiots who have like money, like venture capital or whatever, and like see these words like, oh great. The fucking morons who trusted SBF and thought he was like a fucking brilliant guy, got convicted and is going to spend like a gazillion years in prison now. You know, those are all the same fucking people. Stay away from fucking esports. Jesus fucking Christ. We need to call these people out more when we see them come in and say, hey, idiot. This is not how it works. Get the fuck out with your fucking buzzwords, you piece of shit. Before everyone loses their job because of you and their livelihoods.
Yeah, there does seem to be a reckoning at the moment where the true esports people are going to have to pick up the pieces from all of this garbage that's been left behind in certain situations.
Yes, it is Wanderer. So she doesn't even know the fucking name of the club. Fucking idiot.
Tell me how you really feel. Tell me how you really feel. That seems like a pretty epic place to let it go to bed.
Yeah, you're gonna go to bed, and I'm gonna go have some breakfast.
My man, get some eggs. Get some.
Yeah.
What do they have for? What do they have in Bali breakfast?
Well, the Indonesian classics are nasi goreng or mie goreng, which is fried rice with veggies, and over the top there's one egg. And the breakfast portion is smaller. It also exists as a main. But actually, funny enough, at this particular place they don't have it. It's mostly like some either healthy shit like smoothies or just they have eggs Benny. So
eggs Benny, that's the number one breakfast.
But yeah, I've had a couple of times the Indonesian ones or just the regular fucking eggs, bro. I'm simple. Well,
perfect.
Not the player, just a simpleton. Much like the sun.
All right. Go get some fucking breakfast. Go get your eggs Benny.
All right, peace.
Enjoy the rest of vacation. See you, bro.
See ya.